The reason you were here is because something came to me last Sunday, actually. And I kind of mentioned it at Greater Faith and just did it in passing and had planned to talk about it at length later on, but it wouldn't leave me alone. And I felt, not pressured, but I don't like to use the term led because it's so loosely used. Compelled to talk about it in a setting where I could be questioned, and I felt like the setting needed to be here and don't know why. And I called Jamil and bounced it off of him because I thought it was me, but obviously it wasn't because here I am. And that's part of my apprehension. I've never in my life called people together to teach anything. I've called for meetings and just to discuss stuff, but just never to teach. But this is what dawned on me. The thing that dawned on me is we have been talking about time as an entity that's sped up, right? And what dawned on me is time has not sped up. Time has slowed down. And what made me think about that is I was looking at a piece on something concerning Egypt. And they were talking about the pyramid at Giza. And I think it's like 400,000 tons that it weighs. And the people who walk close to the tower, to the pyramid, experience time at a slower pace than the people who walk a distance from the pyramid. And the reason is because the greater the mass, the slower the time, because mass becomes a great mass becomes a drag on time. Therefore the time the closer you get to the pyramid, the more you experience time at a different pace than people further away from it. Then I thought about, okay, if time has slowed down, then what kind of relationship does time have to us? How do we deal with this thing of time? Because, Einstein talked about if we could travel at the speed of light, then we could actually do time travel. And I believe that we already are doing time travel. But I'll talk about that in a second. If we could travel at the speed of light, I'm told, then for every 1 day we travel, the earth would have moved a year in time. So if we could travel 4 days at the speed of light, then when we get back to the earth would have aged 4 years. We'll be 4 years in the future when we get back to the earth. Now, if that is the case, then experiencing travel at the speed of light does not speed up time, it slows it down. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Now, if it were speeding it up, then that would mean that things would age faster. If time had sped up, things would be aging faster and destruction would be more imminent. But the objective is not to bring time to, the objective is not for time to be sped up and destroy everything through aging process, but the objective based upon traveling at the speed of light would be to slow time down to the point where it doesn't exist anymore. Because if that happens, then that means that that deterioration stops when time is no more, because time is the thing that causes deterioration. So,
can you slow up? Because you asked if we were with you.
yeah.
And I was waiting for you to kind of finish your thought with that. But you're founding that time is actually slowing down in relation to what's perspective. Because if I go 4 days and you're like the earth is aging 4 years, so can you talk about that? What do you mean about the awareness
Yes.
of that?
What I'm talking about is when I'm talking about perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Traveling, traveling at the speed of light has nothing to do with the ability to use any type of propulsion to travel at the speed of light. Man will never do that. He doesn't need to. Because man is thought, and thoughts travel at the speed of light. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
Now, when we become what we are supposed to be in terms of image and likeness of Elohim, pure light, or ultimate potential, then time is no more. Am I right? So, if we become light, then if we travel at all, it has to be at the speed of light, doesn't it? Light can only travel at the speed of light. So if we become light, then that's what we do. We travel at the speed of light. The ultimate thing is to get to the place where Regina doesn't travel at the speed of light, but Regina becomes aware of who she is, and she is able to articulate to Brian how to become image and likeness, so now Brian can do the same thing. The ultimate objective is for mankind to recognize that he is not this solid form called body, and that this earth is not a solid form called a celestial ball. Rather, it is an illusion that causes us to stop being, or to not seek, rather, to be who we are, so that we cease to put a drag on this thing called time. When we talk about reaching critical mass, when we reach critical mass in terms of enlightenment, that's what puts a drag on time. It doesn't take the only thing that the Pyramid of Giza does is show us the potential for putting a drag on time with solid mass. But if we become who we are supposed to be, we put a drag on time to the point where it stops. It ceases to be. Just like when Jesus was able to move from one place to another in a split second, that was him recognizing who he was, and he was able to move at the speed of light.
So is that in terms of where we see, like, in the Old Testament, people living so long as in terms of years, is that perhaps their awareness was of a different level, and so in this dimension of things, you had that space, that progression.
Yes, and I'm saying that what happened when we started looking at the years began to diminish in terms of the length of time that people lived, is because they became more and more unaware of the light that they are. And they began to buy into this dimension being the end all. And that we are indeed separate from the light that created us all. I'm also saying that I do not believe that aliens showed the Egyptians how to build pyramids, neither were the aliens employed in moving the stones. I don't believe that. The reason Jesus was able to raise Lazarus from the dead is because he had the will to do so. Am I right? Do you buy into that? The reason Jesus was able to change water into wine is because he had the will to do so. Did he not?
I guess to me, I'm not with the concrete
Ain't
reading
nothing.
of that.
There's absolutely
Okay.
nothing concrete about this.
All right.
Nothing.
I'm with you now. Okay.
There's the illusion of everything is that it got to be concrete. That's what prompted me to post that thing about living out our minds. When the more we live out our mind, the more analytical we become. And the more analytical we become, the more we buy into the illusion that the something that is greater than us is separate from us. So if we believe that, now everything has to be concrete. There's absolutely nothing concrete about this. A Mayan healer said that we are becoming less rigid and more fluid as a people. And what she meant by that was we are becoming less of the darkness that we created and more of the light that created us. That's really what she was saying. Can you see that? Now, let's get back to the Egyptians. What I believe happened is, if Jesus could have the will to raise Lazarus from the dead and did it, if Jesus could have the will to change water to wine and did it, if Jesus wanted to move a 2-ton stone by his will, do you think that he could have done it? I'm serious. So if Jesus could have the will and done that, then what makes us think, since he said, not only will you do what I've done, but greater things, that you can't have the will to do the same thing? So I am saying it was sheer will that moved those stones to build those pyramids. There was no mechanism, no hydraulics necessary for them to do it. And the reason that we are quick to buy into the idea of aliens doing it is because we cannot buy into the belief that we are capable of doing the same thing through sheer will. And that is why our lives is in such shambles today. If we can get to the place where we begin to see beyond the shadow of a doubt that the only one who is holding on to this thing called time, which is an enemy, and when I say enemy, it is, I'm talking about, it has something, time possesses something that we need. And the something that we need from time is to realize that it is an illusion. And when we begin to realize that it is an illusion, and we begin to see the light that we are, guess what else happens? No longer do we male and female, Greek or Jew, and I do think that this is what Jesus was talking, what Paul was writing about when he talks about there was neither in Christ there's neither Greek nor Jew, male nor female, bond nor free. I think that's what he was talking about. I really believe that's what he was talking about, and I'm saying that when we get to the place where we understand that it is that our will is the most powerful thing that we possess. And the possession of the will that we have is no less powerful than the will of Elohim. And the Elohim that I'm speaking of is the Elohim that we were created to be. But we are in denial about that because we have been living out of our minds and not out of our hearts. We have been, when I say living out of our minds, we have taken unlimited potential that we were given and put boundaries around it. And the boundaries that we have put around it is that we are limited in what we are able to do, in the powers that we're able to access. We are limited in being able to bring about bring creation under our dominion. We have set those boundaries. The Creator didn't do that. We have done that. And the way we set those boundaries is by keeping time intact. How do we keep time intact? If I perceive that I need something, or if I perceive that you need something, or if you express to me that you are going through something, the first thing that I do is start petitioning light, heaven, bombarding heaven. Is that not what we say? I start petitioning heaven for what? I start telling light what I want to be, what I want to come into being. I want your dilemma to change, right? Then I start talking about what it ought to look like. So what have I done? I have taken light, brought it under the boundaries of time, and formed it into what I want it to be in my mind. Are you with me? But if I take that same light and refuse to allow my mind to form it, refuse to allow my mind to put any boundaries around it, refuse to allow my mind to define it in any way, all I do is take that light and see your face and make application of it to you and let it be what it desires to be when it comes to you. Then your situation may change the way you want it to, or it may not. But however it does, it means that what I have done is use the creative ability that I am to allow light to be what it needs to be. And the reason that we cannot take light and form it into what we think it ought to be is because the moment we begin to think about it, we have contaminated it. We have brought it under the auspices of time. And light cannot be bound by time. Neither can it be bound by geographical location. You can't bind light. Any questions? Am I making sense? Because I sound like I'm babbling.
So speak then on what it means to perceive light correctly then, do you understand where I'm going? Like,
Yes.
to not make it bound by the mind and focusing on this stuff.
We have to begin to speak to ourselves. We have to begin to understand that I am not a degree. I'm not a bachelor's degree. I'm not a carpenter. I'm not a nurse. We got to look beyond the material things that we identify ourselves with and begin to see that the material things that we identify ourselves with are the very things that gives us the illusion that we are separate from the light. And when we begin to do that, then we begin to, the questions invariably come to you, okay, if I'm not that, then who am I? And when you begin to ask, who are you, then that is the thing that carries you, or that is the journey, rather, that leads you from your head to your heart, from your mind to your heart. Earlier, I made a statement that I think the most difficult journey that you will ever take in your life is from your head to your heart. And the difficulty in the journey from your head to your heart, or from your mind to your heart, is that we have for so long deified our minds. We deify intellect. We deify earthly wisdom, or the thing that natural wisdom. We deify that as opposed to utilizing it to carry us to the heart where reality lives. And when we begin to do that and begin to see, desire to see who we are, guess what we see? We see little things that were little breadcrumbs that was left along the way that if you're not careful, you'll miss. We see things like when Jesus prayed, I and the Father are one. He did not say, I and God are one. You see what I'm saying? He when Jesus prayed concerning I and the Father are one, if you notice, he was talking about, in the Aramaic, it says Abun, right? And Abun is the source of all things. So he was recognizing the source of all things, but he also said to Nicodemus that you must go to the beginning to be born again. So Abun, source of all things, beginning, source of all things. So what happens is you follow those breadcrumbs back to the place of the beginning. And what do you see at beginning? The thing that you see at beginning is light. And the thing that you see at the beginning that comes out of the light, that comes out of the potential, is what? if you look at it in order, it says God, Elohim, heaven, which is light, earth, which is chaos, or which is consciousness, earth consciousness, which is material consciousness. And at that point, you have a choice to continue in material consciousness, which keeps us bound by time, or to pursue the light that leads back to beginning, which frees us from time.
When we channel light then and direct it without getting any ideas that bound it,
Yes.
and the individual or the situation toward which we are directing it is not ready to receive it or understand what it means. For instance, if I channel that towards someone's situation and they're not at the point where they're ready to grasp what light is showing them about their situation or about themselves, then I guess my question is, are we led to channel that light towards specific situations, knowing that it's time, and I don't mean that in terms of being bound by time, it's right
It's right.
for that situation.
Yes. If you channel light towards somebody believing that is right for that particular situation, and the person to whom you are who's receiving that light do not feel that is right, they don't have to receive it.
So that's the free will.
That's the free will. They do not have to receive it. But since it is the will of the Creator, that all will be delivered from chaos, from darkness, from confusion. Since that is the will of the Creator, then it might be that they didn't receive it when you directed it. But the next time, which is plant the seed. But the next time, Brian may be the one who directs it. That's the watering. And the light itself will bring both of those together, and they will have an aha moment. And it could be 10 years between the two, or maybe 10 minutes between the two, or 10 seconds. We are not the ones to make that determination. Our obligations and responsibilities are not just to be the light, but to continuously channel the light. That's what Jesus did. If Jesus had just walked and only channeled light to people who requested, who would have gotten it?
But light as a source, I would think that if someone's not ready, that it would leave a residue.
It does.
That someone else may vicariously have access to that light.
Yes.
I just go zoom,
Yeah.
and he doesn't take it, and that's it. I mean,
And then he walks by
it's
Janice and she
energy.
gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the thing about it. When someone says something that enlightens you and you don't understand it, the first thing that we say is it resonates. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it resonate? Because it's familiar to you. It's familiar to you, your heart. It doesn't resonate in your mind. It resonates in your heart. Because you are familiar. It's familiar to you. This is the year that we are going to see a tremendous drag on time in individual lives as well as collective lives. Time is going to have such a drag on it, not because of the massiveness of the earth, but because of the massiveness of the light that's entering the earth consciousness. The objective is for earth consciousness to be so inseminated with light until we begin to recognize that that the heaven and earth are the same. That they need each other. They are an enhancement to each other. That male and female are the same.
I'm sorry. When you say time has a drag on it, then am I hearing you say that the thought is the action kind of thing?
Yes.
Meaning there is no space between necessarily a cause and effect.
Yes,
that we
ma'am.
That we call
That's
time.
the year we're in now. We are going to begin to experience that this year. That's what I'm saying. More than ever before. That is the reason people are able to see the misconceptions that they are being taught. That's why they're able to see that religion doesn't have the answers. That's why they're beginning to see that church is a business and not a way of life. Why? Because time has slowed down or has such a drag on it because of the light that's being brought into the earth until they have opportunity to see it. But if time moves faster, they can't see it because there's something else there before they have an opportunity to see what's in front of them. So it's being slowed down to that degree. Now, how is this light being brought into the earth? I believe that when Abraham said, it's for but one man when you save the city, that is an indicator. It does not take a zillion people to have a desire for the light. It takes one person to have a zillion desires for the light. You see what I'm saying? So the drag on time slows down. The drag rather increases exponentially with the desire to become aware of who we are. And I think that we have, when we talk about this thing, we have for some reason laid back a little bit on talking about who we really are. Because I believe with everything inside of me that if I am image and likeness of something, then there is no difference between me and it. Come on now. Is that true? If I am image and likeness of something, then I am no different than it is. So if that is the case, then I am Elohim. I am Allah. Now, what am I saying to you? When you look at Elohim, that word says what? The Hebrew Elohim is plural, right? So it's unlimited potential, which means that there are multiple facets of potential that's ingrained in Elohim, or in this the unlimited potential that we know as Elohim. And if that is who we indeed are, image and likeness of, then that is indeed who we are. And if Elohim cannot be bound by time, then neither can we be bound by time unless we choose to. And the way we choose to is because we have not gotten to a place of confidence in beginning from whence we came to let go of the material that we have grown comfortable with. We got all these ideals about what's right and what's wrong. And I'm telling you, when you look at light and you look at darkness, you will see that light speaks of order and clarity and reality. And darkness speaks to chaos and darkness and illusions. And both need each other, because the chaos, the darkness, the illusions need the light so it can have order brought to it. And the light needs the chaos, the darkness, and the illusion, so it will have a vessel to hold it. Am I making sense? So we have to we have to come to accept, not accept in terms of accept it in our hands like accepting a gift, but accept in our hearts and not in our minds who we are. And the way you accept it in your heart as opposed to in your mind is by changing the way you think, so you can change the way you speak, so you can change the way you act. And when you find, as Barbara said earlier, about thought becoming action, right? When thought becomes action, the more you become to a realization of who you are and begin to walk in who you are, then you will see a much shorter time between thought and action. Are you with me? And the shortest distance between thought and action shows you that you are diminishing time when it comes to your life. So if what I have said and I'm saying is true, then those whose thoughts are moving at the speed of light means that you are moving at the speed of light because you are thought, which means that you should be aging slower, even in your body, because your body and you are the same.
Break that down. My body and I
Are the same. The reason I say that is because when I think of body, I don't think of this image with 2 legs, 2 arms. I think of the substance that make up this body. And the substance that make up this body is in flesh or entwined with the spirit, who I am, or the soul, who I am. You see? So there is no inside, outside. There is no body and spirit separate. That what I'm saying to you is that everything is one. There is anything that appears to be separate is an illusion. It really is. I was listening at this the Mayan healer. She says that it is the feminine energy that will bring us, that will push us forward to the date to 0 day on the calendar. It's the feminine energy that will push us forward to the 0 date on the calendar. The feminine energy. As she said, and the guy says to her, so what about the male? She says, it is only in your mind or only in the earth that you see male and female. In the other dimension, all are one. It is only here that we are separate. In the other dimension, we are androgynous. And there are connections that are made in this earth and are being made in this earth to bring us to the place where we can not only accept this, or hear it in our ears rather, and let it rattle around in our minds, but we can accept it in our hearts and begin to act out who we are. When I say that the most difficult journey you would take is from your mind to your heart, is because it is very, very difficult for us who have been taught all of our lives to be intellectuals. We've been taught all of our lives to be academicians. It is very, very difficult for us to stop utilizing our minds for the purposes of analyzing everything that we hear, everything that we see, and defining it, labeling it, and categorizing it. That's very difficult to do. But the moment that we can consciously not analyze, that we see something and we receive it for what it is, if we know, if we don't know what it is, we still keep it moving, rather than labeling it and categorizing it. That's when we begin to see, that's when we begin to increase the drag on time. Any question?
What does that look like, the drag on time? Do you mean time slowing down?
Yes. Time slowing down. That's why I introduced the thing about Giza.
You talking about like aging slower? I mean,
Well, it is recognized physically also. It is, but it's measured. It was measured in milliseconds at the Giza pyramid thingy, with the dude standing close to it, measuring the time there and measuring the time, some distance away from the pyramid. Those the two different times. They were like in two different spans of time. And the same thing is like traveling around the black hole. You know, the black hole is a drag on time, and there's a time differentiation as you travel around it. And so if you could get in orbit around the black hole, you would move at the speed of light. If you could get in orbit around one, and when you move, if you could do that, move at the speed of light and then break the orbit of that black hole and come back to the Earth, then the Earth would have aged in respect to the time, to you, in respect to the time that you've been around there. Think about it this way. If you could travel around that black hole for 1 year, and you, when you started traveling, you were 35 years old, right? When you come back, you would have aged 1 day, and everybody else would have aged a whole year. You see, that's what is in regards to that. And I think what we missed it, but was not clear, maybe I should say, is that we've always talked about time travel in terms of vessels. You know, trying to find the amount of propulsion that could put us in orbit to travel at that speed. And with the greatest propulsion that's available now, I think it was said that it would take up to 4 years to get to the speed of light, and then you would be at the edge of the universe. But I think when we start thinking now about time travel and travel at the speed of light, we must think about it the way the scriptures talk about it, and that is thoughts. That is being the light. And that in itself is what slows time down. And if we were not time travelers at this moment, then I do not believe that there would be as much clarity as is coming to people when they began to compare their lives to what they're getting in their churches. You see? When they began to compare what resonates with them with what they are being told should be happening in their lives. And that is why you got the old thing, well, you don't have enough faith, because what it does, it puts it back on you. But if I am supposed to be leading you, if I'm leading you through the forest, and you are following me, and you get lost, and you call for me, and I hear you, and I'm not able to come and get you because I don't know how to get to where you are, why are you following me? It doesn't make sense. Why would you follow me if I don't know where I'm going? Why would you follow me if I have no earthly or heavenly idea about what we are supposed to be doing or where we're supposed to be going? Now, please understand this. Maybe somebody knows, but I don't. The world is going to zero out. The calendar is going to zero out. But what the world to come looks like, nobody knows. Nobody knows. I'm something else. I see spirit, mind, and body on that shirt. And that something struck me about that. You remember the when it talks about, Solomon talks about the strongest rope is the one with 3 threads. Huh? If you braid 3 ropes, it's stronger than if you braid 2 or if you braid 4. The 3 is stronger. And it's more subtle. It can stand more wear and tear. So when you become one with your heart, with your body, your body, if your mind and your body become one, so that'd be body, your mind and your heart becomes one. That would be body, heart, and spirit, right? If you're one with that, if you're one with your thoughts, if you're one with the breath, if you're one with the substance that you are, if you can braid those 3 things together, nothing can break you. Nothing can pull you apart. Nothing can destroy you. That's the thing that I'm talking about. You can not only withstand time, but you can move beyond the band of time. You can move beyond the pool of time. You can move beyond the aging process of time. And I'm not talking about some fountain of youth that Ponce de Leon found. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about getting back, not getting back, I'm sorry. I'm talking about catching up, getting caught up in the beginning. That's what I'm talking about. Getting caught up in the beginning. The beginning from which all of us came. Any questions? No questions?
Hey, Pastor Richards.
Yes, sir.
You talked about a little bit, well, I talked about Wednesday a little bit about how the word synchronicity
Yes.
means to braid time. And when you mentioned that, it just kind of brought me back to that I think that what we're doing is we're learning how to rebraid time when you're talking about the heart, the spirit, and the body.
Right.
I think that's what we're doing, and I think that when we've seen glimpses of it when we look at the Mount of Transfiguration, when we look at Enoch, when we look at Elijah, and then when we look at resurrection. And this kind of really goes back to this really ties everything we've been talking about as far as breathing, and as far as what the Elohim is, because what we're doing is learning how to raise the vibration, because prayer is raising your vibration, right? We're learning how to raise the vibration of our thought beyond the context of what we've been taught, so that we can learn, so that we can rebraid time inside of ourselves, and I think it's directly linked with our DNA. I think that all of this is happening all together. We're rebraiding who we are back to the Creator.
You know what else I see in that? That because
What's that?
because we're in time, that we are not different. We look at each other, seeing each other differently. But
Mhm.
but what we are actually seeing is a different vibration of the same light.
Right.
We see light vibrating at a different frequency. That's how we see each other different.
Now check this out. I see two sides of that. Now, when we are just selfish and we allow ourselves to be in bondage to time, then we take those different vibrations and we say that they are separate from us.
Right.
We say, okay, that's something separate from me. That's a different race of person. That's a different religion of person. But when we begin to nurture our desire for the Creator, then we can use the different vibration of the light to understand who we are. You see what I'm saying? You know how we use different things to get as mirrors for where we are. So we can use differences in order to fine-tune the frequency of light that we are, just as others can use the different frequency that we are. Like light in a prism. All that light in a prism is the same light. It's just being refracted differently. And if we have a desire to come back to the source of that light, then we can use those different hues or things like that to help lead us back to the source.
So what we are actually doing when we are teaching and opening up what's been taught by the elders of old, we are learning how to vibrate at the same frequency.
Right.
So when we vibrate at the same frequency, then we can become the light that we are supposed to be. Like, that's what happened on the Mount of Transfiguration.
Yeah.
Jesus became, well, actually, he just vibrated one with the Father. And when he did that, what happened? It wasn't that Moses and Elijah came out of nowhere. They were already there.
Right.
Good.
He came back into the beginning to join them.
Yes. And when I say he got caught up in the beginning.
Right.
So getting caught up in the beginning is no different than saying you're getting caught up with the wrong people.
Right. Exactly.
It's the same principle.
Exactly.
So
Because it is. Look, check this out too. And this is what I believe. I don't believe Jesus could have done any of that without the people he surrounded himself by. Because I think he specifically chose the people that he surrounded himself by because they served even though they were physical beings and bodies, right? They served as reflections of the different energies and light, the different energies and receptors of light that he needed in order to create that environment to travel beyond time. Do you see what I'm saying? Making the particular corrections that he needed to make with the people he surrounded by, like we're talking about with the prism.
You're exactly right. That is the reason why it is so imperative to not have people around you, to have people from different walks of life, because they represent different energy forms, they represent different levels of vibration, and if you have a representative of the level of vibration in your presence that is prevalent in the world, then when you bring those levels of vibration into synchronicity with the Creator, then the other people who vibrate at that level will have an image to mimic.
Exactly.
And they don't have to be in your presence to be changed or to be made different. That is the reason we can say something in New York and in a week it's in California and nobody sent an email.
Right. Or check this out. When the Roman centurion, he didn't even know Jesus personally, but he recognized the light in him and connected to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so Jesus said, because you recognize who I am and you related to that, he had access to that power. It wasn't because Jesus said your daughter was healed, but it was because he vibrated at the level of what was in Jesus and connected it to himself.
But the thing that made him do that was not that he was looking for it. The thing that made him do that was something inside of him that cried out for his daughter to be brought back to life, for his daughter to be delivered. It was his fear of losing his daughter. So that's what I'm talking about. The material earth consciousness propelled him to a place to recognize that light. And when he did it, what did he say? He said, you don't have to go. All you got to do is speak the words. In other words, you don't have to go because you're already there.
Right.
Light is everywhere.
Right.
So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about putting the drag on time. The reason the disciples saw the transfiguration and then participate in it is because they couldn't free themselves from the time boundaries.
Right.
So they were asleep to light. And it was all around them. And when I see them being asleep to light, I see it no differently than you sitting someplace in some religious setting and they not recognizing who you are.
Right.
They know something different about you, but they won't let you say anything because they don't know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, no, I'm just thinking. I'm just listening now.
Well, I trust that you're listening to that inner voice because I think I'm through.
Well, when Jamil said that thing about he needed the disciples around him because they were kind of not a reflection, but they provided certain sparks that helped create what was needed for that sort of emanation to occur. Anyway, the thing that went through my head was that you know that movie called Contact,
Mm-hmm.
where she's in the machine
Yeah.
and the things are around,
Yeah,
and that sort of energy propelled her through.
yeah.
I kind of see it like that. Those people around him gave him that sort of energy to sort of propel him through.
That's the reason I see that you had to be here tonight. The energy was needed to see it with a greater clarity. You know, I understand why the ancients get upset when ancient trees are cut down. I understand that because they see them as having been witnesses to the energy of the ancestors who were able to do far more at the feet of the Creator than we could ever dream of doing. And those energies are still there in those trees that witness it. And you're able to draw from it. I see why they preserve. I see why Eskimo in Iceland can say you cut down a tree in the Amazon, and I'm the first to feel the effects of it. I can see that. I understand why there's such concern. What was concern about the melting of the ice, right? You know, it was like in Iceland it was 1 mile high. Now it's 900 feet, and right now the concern is not for global warming. It's not that no one cares. It's not that I don't care. It's that it's done now. The ice is melting. So what? The ice is melted. In order for something to live, something got to die. So the earth is dying. The seasons are dead. You don't know one season from the other. Right? So it's done. So what do we do now? We do everything we can to begin to live from our hearts and be the light that we were designed to be from the beginning, so that, or by the beginning, so that we can free ourselves from the boundaries of time. We have to be able to do that. Everyone who stays bound to time will be destroyed with time.
Hey, Pastor Rich, I want to throw something else out there.
Yes, sir.
We talk about this year being a portal for all of this, so we know that this year is 2011, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think me and Sheldon were talking at the end of class Wednesday, and he started talking about the Sephirah of Da'ath, you know, which is between Binah and Hokmah, and between Keter and between Tiferet, which is balance and crown and wisdom and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And the sages understand that to be the 11th or the hidden Sephirah, you know? But one of the things I was thinking about was the fact that it was that tree of knowledge and good and evil which locked us into, trapped us into this dimension. But at the same time, the same thing that locked you out is the same thing that is a gateway and portal back to the reality where we came from. So we got trapped in the time, and then when we look at where we are spiritually in history, all the way from that event that occurred thousands of years ago, we see that we are right back to that same portal, so to speak. We're right back to that 11th sphere or dimension, which is a gateway. We have an opportunity to, instead of eating from the tree of knowledge and good and evil, or that portal that brought us here, now we are at a place where we're set at a table to eat from the tree of life, or to eat from the light that we are. So we're right back at this gateway, and just like we fell into this world, now this world is almost in a sense disintegrating, and I think the reason you felt compelled to come today is because it is a representation of that portal and us being needed to be made aware of our ability to cross back over, because I said this Wednesday, anybody latching on to all the stuff we've been taught to latch on to, anyone approaching success, money, relationships the way that we have been taught to, all of that is going to die, and anyone who's trying to grasp a hold of it. So I think that that's what compelled you, because I think that this year, that whole 111 thing, this year that is full of 1111s, I think that it's the creators of mathematical code giving us an opportunity to understand that we can eat from this experience that we're having right now in order to move back into the garden or to become awakened to the fact that we never left it.
Well, and see, that's the thing, because if we are Elohim, and we are unlimited potential. And unlimited potential has the unlimited potential to be light or darkness.
Right.
Janice.
So, could the flaming sword then be internal?
It
Could be the
is.
separation between mind and heart?
It is. The flaming sword is not there for destruction at all. Is there actually for purification and identification. The sword itself is sharp enough to part the most minute thoughts, so you can see them for what they really are. And the flames are there to bring about purity. It's so that all the dross can be burned away from it. And when you enter into the place, into the garden or the place of pleasure, or the eat from the tree of life, you will do it with purity. So it's when you say internal, I don't want us to think it's internal like it's internal in Audrey, it's internal in Vermel, it's internal in each individual, it's internal in mankind collectively. See, I can't go to beginning and stay with beginning and not care whether you get there or not. Because if I don't care whether you get there or not, I can't get there. You see, my major concern is to make sure that everyone with whom I come in contact, and everyone with whom those I come in contact with, the one that they come in contact with, and on and on and on, have the same opportunity or a greater opportunity to get caught up in beginning as I have. That has to be each one of our desires. Recognizing that when that becomes a desire, it no longer is each one of our desires, it is one desire. And that in itself is reflective of the oneness of our existence. Does that make sense?
Jamel just talked about the mystery, well, what is seen as the mystery of knowledge. That is, that when we approach it with our own selfish motives, it turns away, for lack of a better word, its face away from us toward the crown. But when we are thinking in terms of what's best for not only me but mankind, then that's when we have opportunity to access that wisdom, and so it turns toward us, and that light just comes straight through rather than closing off from us.
Right.
So
And
it can be an abyss, and it can be a portal.
but it can be an abyss of light.
That's true. But it can be an abyss of darkness.
Yes.
And that's what it's been seen most as, because we've been a selfish sort
And
until we become aware of who we are.
And you talk about shining straight through us. It does. You can't hold light in your hand. Therefore, when you recognize who you are, you begin to see that you're the light in the room. You're the light in the dark places. And when light reaches critical mass, not even a black hole is strong enough to hold it. That's the critical mass that we must recognize, not that we become, but that we are. We must recognize that we are light to the extent that there are no shadows. See, the different, when you look at the scriptures and it talks about Elohim, it talks about El Shaddai, it talks about Adonai, it talks about Jehovah Jireh, all those things, right? Each one of those are different potentials. Those are not personalities as we thought they were. They are different potentials. And guess what? Every one of those potentials is what we are. But we have disassociated ourselves from them because they're too holy for us to be them. But that's the potential that we are. you tell somebody you're El Shaddai, you don't have to tell them, just be it. When you walk into the classroom, do you say, I'm your teacher? You just be the teacher.
For some people.
Yeah, maybe a poor example. But someone still don't believe it when you tell them. But you understand the principle here, right? You understand the principle.
Yeah.
So you don't have to tell anyone that you're El Shaddai. You don't have to tell them that you're Adonai. Just be it. Because there is no way that we can be image and likeness of Elohim and not be image and likeness of all these other facets of the potential of Elohim. Or all these other things that we call names of Elohim. There's no way. So we are all of that. Yes, sir.
And you see, you know what you're talking about now? And this is what's been the handicap of us. We have been limited to thinking third dimensionally.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is when we have a problem, we only see the problem in the circumstance right now.
Yes,
you know? And we see it as though we don't have the solution because we may not have it physically right then. But what you're talking about, when you look in those scriptures and you see Yahweh, you see El Shaddai, those are compartments that are within us that the light can reveal that we are, you know? And when we do that, then the context of our conversations between us, we begin to think fourth and fifth dimensionally. Because we say, this is the situation.
Uh-oh. You'll be back. But you understand where he's coming from. And when we begin to think fourth and fifth dimensionally, we are outside of the boundaries of time. And it is at that point that we begin to see beyond the shadow of any doubt that the universe is actually in us, as opposed to us being in the universe. That we are the creators of it. We are the creators of the universe. And I know that this is going to be troubling to a lot of people. It's okay. People need to be troubled so they'll stop accepting everything and not thinking about anything.
That also then explains why our thoughts are so important, because if universe is in us, for some reason brings me back to what I've been learning from the letter up there. If it really does make sense to me now that we're all connected and that we're all that, but as we hold on to this thing of time, we start unbraiding ourselves away from our source. But now we're at a point where we've caused so much angst between us, ourselves, that somebody has to get us back to going the opposite direction.
And see, for me, this is the thing, baby girl. We got to change the way we talk about ourselves too. We've not unbraided ourselves. We thought we had. We have not undone anything. We just covered it up with illusions.
Okay.
You see?
We've braided illusions.
Yes.
Is that braiding the collapse of the pillars onto them?
Yes, it is. It's the, yeah. All is interwoven into one.
So it's already there, but we just have the illusion that it's not.
Yes.
So we started the illusion back in the Garden of Eden. That was going to be my question, where Adam and Eve chose
You back?
to.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I'm talking from Mel. Go ahead, finish your point.
So back at the Garden of Eden, when the choice was made to eat from the tree of good and evil, that's where we started creating our illusion, technically unbraiding.
And see, that was not a sequential thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we read it, it looks like it was sequential. But all of those things transpired in an instant. But it had to be written sequentially because that's how we think. We think that it lemon, you know, in series. See, we have to wake up from this dream. A dream is a series of images or thoughts. We have to wake up from the dream and see the reality of what is. Does that make sense? Jamil, what were you saying?
No, I was just saying that we have to start thinking fourth dimensionally, you know? That's all I was saying. I was saying that, you know, and I think, Ms. Ramel, that when we ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we could only see what was right in front of our eyes. We couldn't contemplate that we were in more places than one, which is what Elohim is. Elohim, before we fell into this flesh, was able to think backwards and forwards at the same time, you know? And that's what limits us now, is what's in front of our eyes, what's in front of our smell, what's in front of our taste. But when we start to unlock the code or start to use the keys to the kingdom, then that begins to free us from that, because we start contextualizing our life as being beyond what we see and having access to resources in past, present, and future, so to speak.
And that's exactly where we are now. We only see what's in front of us.
Yeah.
And we only desire what's in front of us. If we start thinking about something that we cannot, that we cannot identify with one of the five senses, then all of a sudden we lost.
Yeah. And you know, I had a realization the other day that what locked us into that is that system, the system of the Catholic Church locked us into time. So when they took that translation of the keys to the kingdom, when Jesus was talking to Peter, they used that understanding to trap people in their senses by putting a man in front of everyone instead of the principles of the kingdom. So now you're always looking at a man outside of yourself, and you're always trapped in time, instead of using the message of the kingdom to elevate the vibration of your thought. To break free from the third dimension, you stay trapped at it by looking at something in front of you and outside of yourself, and never tapping into what's within. So you always are processing stuff according to physical circumstances and things of that nature, rather than feeling the flow of who you are and being able to braid time synchronistically and see time and eternity in the same place.
Well, that happens because not only did they remove the principles and put a man there, but they also destroyed the womb of the woman who would go give birth so we could get there.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, the woman gained second-class citizenry under Catholicism.
Exactly.
And quite frankly, I was looking at some stuff and found out that in most cultures, it was the grandmothers who saw the visions and chose the seers for the villages.
That's definite. That's most definite. And I was talking about this on Wednesday with what you just said, that the time that we measured by before we fell into this Gregorian calendar was based upon the woman and her cycle, you know? So it was linked together to give us kind of like a physical of what was going on in the spiritual, you know? But when the Roman Catholic Church came in, they put us in a system that was more masculine oriented. So those things, like those women who picked the seers, those things got pushed out.
Well, then on top of that, what happens is when we began to see a woman losing her cycle, lost the track of the moon cycles, that was when the beginning of the end was, because but everything is cyclical. The season was cyclical. Everything is cyclical, and now there are no seasons. The seasons of the earth are gone. The cycle of a woman is gone. You see what I'm saying? So and then when we talk about the young people were the cycle of them looking out for the older people, that's broken.
Yeah.
So all cycles now are dead or dying, and when cycles die, then new cycles must be born, must be birthed.
Exactly.
And the reason it is the feminine energy that's going to lead us to the 0 date on the calendar is because there has to be a womb to birth the seed that's in it, so that there can be another world, and the world that's to come will bring us to a point where no longer will creation have to mourn for a redemption, because the redemptive process is actually locked up in the womb of the woman.
Yeah. And that's what Genesis says when they fell. It said that it will be the seed of a woman that will crush the head of the serpent. And the serpent is that mentality, that physical mentality that we trapped in.
Yes.
So the issue of 2012 is not looking at it as a doomsday kind of thing. It's just part of that cosmic cycle
Yes.
that that occurs to start anew with a new world.
Yes.
In a sense, it doesn't mean necessarily that this physical ball of earth is going to go away. There's that opportunity for a new spiritual
Yes.
world.
So then what do we mean by cosmic cycle in that point? Because from the perspective that it is the universe within us.
The cosmic cycle is us cycling. It is us cycling. We need to realize that. The energy that's in the universe that's cycling is us. We are that energy. But we have disconnected from it, because what we've done is stood away from it and looked at it
And
through.
projected at stars and
Yes.
planets. And
Yeah. So that's how the men knew about it in the past without the telescopes and stuff, because they had a will to know who they are, and they realized that that's who they are. What we project as the moon, the planets, the stars, etc., that's who they are. And that is the reason you find the pyramids across the world line up with the solar system. Because, they had to be able to do that by sheer will as opposed to instruments. Because they didn't have the instruments. And we have instruments that can't do it. So it had to come from what we call within, and them realizing within and without are the same. No difference between the two. No difference. Women have the seed in the womb, and the womb has been locked up because of disrespect for feminine energy, because it has been put into bondage on the male domination. And in order to bring balance to the energy, there has to be a cycle of feminine domination. And feminine domination does not mean feminine rulership. Feminine domination is talking about bringing masculine energy into balance. That's what that's talking. That's what that is. See, I wrote something about the heaven and earth being diametric, and diametric not meaning that they're opposed to each other, but diametric meaning that they are different than each other. They're diametrics in that both are different but yet need each other, and one can't exist without the other. And that's how we have to see it with the diametrics of male and female. We need both, and neither one of them is any stronger than the other. It doesn't matter that I may be able to do something that you can't do. I am not stronger than you. We are balanced in our strength because we balance each other. Any questions? Okay. If not, what time is it? Okay. If not, then we're going to call it in. Quits. Something. I'm going home. Honestly, I thank you for your comment and questions and comments and stuff, and I trust that you will take what has been discussed tonight not as some exercise in academia, but rather as the opening or the recognition that a portal has been opened for us to enter. Now, having said that, Jamil, you still there? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Having said that, this is what we must hold on to, and I'm talking about with the tenacity of a bulldog, that the portal that we have entered gives us the opportunity to do something that must be done. We are going to begin in a very real way experiencing the world after 2012. now. Especially those who teach. And the reason that is necessary is because somebody had to go into Canaan to spy out the land. The question is, are we going to make an attempt to transition into this other world with the same attitudes that we have in this one? We cannot do that. We must consciously make a difference. And there are going to be things that are going to be discussed, there are going to be connections made that we never saw before. And they're going to come very, very quickly. Because I'm telling you, we have been talking about Elohim and duality for quite some time, have we not? And this is the very first time that I'm able to see the unlimited potential as being, Yahweh, Adonai, all the names being different facets of that unlimited potential, and that we are those different facets. This is the first time I've seen that. Now, we are going to begin seeing how to not so much teach you, but show you how to experience it. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but it's going to happen. We're going to begin experiencing these different facets of potential so that when people, and they invariably will be afraid, when they began to approach 2012 in the calendar year, and the questions began to come, because time has slowed down to such a pace that now they are seeing the fallacy of everything that they once believed in. We will be able to give them the answers in a manner that will not diminish them in that would diminish them in any kind of way whatsoever. We will not speak to them in a way that makes them feel like we think we're superior to them. That will not happen, because we're not. We're servants. Okay? All right.
Hey, Pastor?
Yes.
This is Rainy. I got the message late, so I joined late.
Oh, okay.
But I wanted to ask, the world after 2012, is that what you're saying we're making when you say we're going to experience it?
In a sense, yes, we are making it. Because the world that we have now, we made it. So yes, we are. We are at a vital point in our lives. And I don't mean in our earthly lives by any means. We are at a vital point. And you know how you watch Star Trek and they have to hit the wormhole at the right time. Otherwise, they can't get back into the other dimension. That's where we are. That's where we are. We got to hit the wormhole at the right time. We are at this portal, and we got to go through it at the right time. If we don't, I'm afraid to even imagine what may happen. Keep in mind, beginning has always had somebody in the earth who is willing to do whatever it takes to go through that wormhole. Always. And see, let me say this before we end. We talk about beginnings, continuous beginnings. I do not believe that there are continuous beginnings. What I'm beginning to see is that there is beginning, period. Continuous beginning, not, beginnings, but continuous beginning. That's what I see. And it is necessary for us to function in that manner so that we can experience beginnings continuously. A beginning, rather, continuously. That's our Father. That's our source. That's the womb of beginning continuously oozes. There's a continuous flow of light from the womb of beginning. And whoever chooses to experience it has the opportunity to experience it. But it has to be with the right intentions. Okay? Is that it? Any questions?
I have one, but I can't voice it yet, so I'll think on it.
Okay. And if you can voice it by Saturday, Bob will be here.
Okay.
No, I'll be here also. Okay, any other questions? If not, thank you and good night.
Night, y'all.